What's up, guys? Diego from SGN, and I want to talk about Ultimate Team today. And of course, it's today that they announced the top 100 players in Ultimate Team. So let's go ahead and start off with none other than Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who this year has actually a pretty decent card, considering I thought that a player in the MLS would have had a lot lower overall. I guess I would have expected him to be like an 83 or something like that, but they gave him a monstrous 88 shooting, solid 78 physical, 78 dribbling, which is also pretty good, and 77 passing. So his pace is low, but that's perfectly fine. This game doesn't really focus a whole lot on the pace side of things, apparently. Haven't played it yet, but that's what everybody's been saying. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be too big of a deal. But this Zlatan card definitely looks good, and he's a guy that you could definitely have come off the bench potentially and do pretty well early on. I don't know if he's a player that you can kind of build your team around, because apparently heading and stuff like that is pretty weak this game. But he's definitely one of those players that, just for the sake of having him and maybe playing friendlies, he could be very fun, especially with the five-star skill moves and the 4-star weak foot. Bruno Fernandes, I think, definitely could have been 86 material, but I think an 85 is kind of fair. You know, he did stay in the Portuguese league, so he didn't secure himself a major move, which I think would have probably guaranteed him to be at least an 86, maybe even an 87 after the amazing season he had last year. But I definitely think that his card is still very, very solid. You know, 77 pace, 83 shooting, 87 passing, and 85 dribbling are all very solid, and actually 74 physical is very, very good too, and 65 defending for a cam, that's pretty damn solid. So overall, this card is very, very good, and very usable. Like if you are starting off with a Portuguese team or a Liga NOS team, he's definitely a guy that once you get him, he could be very, very dangerous. So a lot of respect to him there, especially with the 4-star. So he's just an overall really good player. Saul is also a very, very well-rounded player. He doesn't excel in pace, but he's very, very good at everything else. Like, he's not excellent at anything, but he's very good at everything else. So I think that that's a pretty solid card there. Nothing to really write home about, especially because he only has 3-star skill moves, but he does have a 4-star weak foot, which is pretty good. So it's good, but it's nothing great. But you can't really expect too much out of most 85s. Which leads us to Ziyech, or Ziyech, I don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but I think this is a pretty decent card. You know, 80 pace is solid, 83 dribbling is really good, 66 physical is decent for a cam, like we saw with what's his name, with Bruno Fernandes, but of course Bruno Fernandes has 74, as you can see there. For some reason I was thinking it was lower, but still. Ziyech has a very, very solid card here. I definitely think he's nowhere near Bruno Fernandes, but it's definitely a decent one. If you're starting off with an Ajax with a Eredivisie team, then he could be a potentially solid player. I personally wouldn't start off with that, but he's definitely not a bad one. Allen is another well-rounded player, kind of like Saul, but definitely better because he has that insane physical and defending stat line right there. And he also has 84 dribbling, which is very, very solid. His passing is pretty good, and his pace is definitely solid too. So he's definitely like a much better version, or not a much better version, but definitely a very, very solid version of Saul. I definitely think he's at his best if you play him as a CDM, but he can also play pretty well in a midfield 3, I think. So he's a pretty solid player here. Like, this is a very, very good card. Rodri, I think, is by far the worst one we've seen so far. His pace is trash. Or not trash, but it's just not that great, of course. Like I said, this game doesn't really focus a whole lot on pace, so I don't know what 67 translates in this game, whereas in previous games, 67 was just horrible. So it could be that a 67 is actually pretty decent in this one. We'll have to kind of find out. But his dribbling stats are decent, his passing stats are decent, and his physical stats as well as defending are pretty good. So I think that he's definitely a far cry from being the perfect CDM for an 85 rating like Allen is, but he's definitely decent as well, and unfortunately for him, I think he's going to be very high priced due to the fact that he plays in the Premier League, and the fact that he also has 4-star weak foot, which makes him, you know, a pretty decent player. But if I had to choose between these two, I would go with Allen, and I just think that, you know, building up a Serie A team early on is probably more convenient than building up a Premier League team anyway. Milinkovic-Savic is another one, so he completely maintained his rating. I think they took down his pace a little bit, but like they did with pretty much everybody. His shooting is still pretty decent. His passing is solid. His dribbling is solid, and his defending and physical stats are solid as well. So he is a perfect midfielder for like a midfield 3. I don't think he has the stats to be a cam, but as a center mid, I think he's definitely solid. Jimenez as a center back, the pace isn't too bad for a center back, so that's not bad. The physical and the defending are very solid. His passing could be an issue, but I think that overall this is a pretty decent defender. Like I said, you know, I'm kind of judging these guys based on what they could be at the launch of the game. Not necessarily moving forward because, of course, 85s by November, December, they're okay players, but they're not necessarily that great. So I think he's going to be a decent player to start off with if you can pack him. I'm talking about like if you pack him or if you have enough coins to get him pretty early, then he could be a decent player. Manolas, he's always going to be good because he has that 82 pace. His shooting has actually gone up by 6. His passing is still awful, but with the amount of pace he has, the physical and the defending, I think that he more than makes up with that, especially because of the pace. So I think that he has shit feet, but he has very, very, very good pace and good physical stats. So I think that he's definitely a solid center back once again this year. Koke is another player that I just don't like, much like Jimenez, to be honest. I mean, like Jimenez is a decent player, but I think that Koke is just completely useless for FIFA. Yes, he has the 4-star weak foot, but as a winger, he only has a 3-star skill moves. He has an awful 68 pace, which for center backs is okay. For center mids could be okay, but for wingers, it's just unacceptable. His shooting is okay, but not special. His passing is definitely solid, and his dribbling is good, and his physical is really good too. But it's just that 68 pace that, in my opinion, makes him completely useless. Icardi here takes a 2-point drop. His 75 pace is okay for a striker. That's not bad. Its 84 shooting is definitely pretty decent. His passing is shit. His dribbling is okay. And his physical is not good. So I think that Icardi is definitely not going to be a very good striker this year. I think he's definitely taken a huge step backwards. And his 4-star weak foot isn't bad, but his 3-star skillful moves also make him take a pretty decent step backwards. So Icardi is not a good player in my opinion this year. Carvajal is I don't remember what his pace was last year, but it wasn't that great, I think. But 81 pace, I guess for this year's standards, okay. His defending and physical are actually surprisingly good for a player of his size, and his dribbling is good, and his passing is good. So an all-around decent fullback. His weak foot and skill moves are both mediocre, so nothing special there, but nothing bad as well. So I think this is definitely a solid player here, and that one that could be useful. Alaba, as always, in 85. He's a good player. His 83 pace is okay, kind of like Carvajal. He's kind of similar to Carvajal here, but he has worse physical stats, but he does have better shooting and better passing. So he's a good player. Once again, for a team that's mid-range or early on, it's a good player. Moving forward, he's not going to be that great, but he is decent, and his weak foot is also pretty solid, so he can do a job on both sides of the pitch if you want to play him as a right back as well. Blaise Matuidi, I think he was an 85 last year too, so he kind of stayed the same. This year he plays for the phenomenal Piemonte Calcio, LOL. His 75 pace is pretty good. His 66 shooting isn't great, but even last year his shooting was shit, and yet he scored a ton of goals. His passing is actually pretty good, and his physical and defending stats are solid, as well as his dribbling. So another very well-rounded player right here. His skill moves and weak foot are both garbage, so that's something taken into consideration. But overall, I think this is a pretty solid card here. Romelu Lukaku, with his first time playing in the Serie A, he has a very, very low 75 pace, which I think is like almost 10 stats, maybe less than it was last year. I think he had like an 84, maybe even more. I could be wrong about that, but I think so. His shooting isn't great this year. His passing is alright. His dribbling is alright, but his physical is very solid. So no surprise there. His skill moves are pretty mediocre, but his weak foot is pretty good. Not much to say here. You know, the chubby-faced Lukaku, he's a solid player, and one that if you do have him, he's going to do plenty of work for you, especially because, as I've mentioned before, the pace in this game, everybody's saying it's not that important. It's nowhere near as important as it was before to have huge pace stats. So he could still be a very, very solid player, and I think he definitely will be. Moving forward, we have Alejandro Gomez, aka Papu Gomez, Nicolas Sule, and Alexandro. Hold on, it's taking a second for these things to load. So yeah, Gomez, he's a solid player. His pace is really, really high. His shooting is very solid. For, of course, a cam we're talking about, not necessarily as a striker, but for a cam, he's very solid. His passing and dribbling are both really good, and his physical is, of course, not that great, but he's a tiny player, so you don't really need him to be that. You just need him to be kind of getting in behind the defense, and with his 4-star skill moves and 4-star weak foot, he's definitely going to be able to do so. I think this is a pretty solid card right here, and definitely one that if you're using a Serie A, could be very good very early. I remember in FIFA 19, I loved using Papu Gomez. He was very, very good, and I think that this game, he has the potential of doing the same thing. Sule, not a big fan of Sule, but he definitely has a much better card this year than he did last year. His passing is still kind of garbage, his shooting is still trash, but nobody cares about that for a defender. His pace is excellent for more or less that mid-range, pacey defender. So he has plenty of pace, and his physical and defending stats are solid. So if you're starting a Bundesliga, if you can get Sule, that's a pretty big deal. Alexandro is a guy that was just excellent in FIFA 19. His pace is still pretty solid with 83. His shooting is definitely not bad for a fullback. His passing at 77 is solid, and his dribbling, defending, and physical stats are all three pretty good. So, as always, I think that Alexander is going to be a very, very good player. It is interesting that he took a step back in terms of his overall. I think it was an 86 last year. So, it's interesting to see him be an 85. I don't know why he got a downgrade, but he had a ton of informs last year. But, all right, I'll leave it at that. Fabinho, this is an interesting player because, he's slow, but I think that with the way that the game's looking right now, 68 pace could be pretty decent. Like, as a CDM, it could be good enough, potentially. His shooting is still pretty bad, but his passing, his dribbling, his defending, and physical are all really, really solid for a CDM. So I think that he could definitely be a pretty solid player here. Skill moves at 3, not bad, but his weak foot is 2, so that's probably going to be an issue. But as always, Fabinho is a pretty decent player for FIFA. Nothing special, but nothing bad as well. And De Ligt is a solid defender here. With 67 pace, it's not the best, but if you can put a decent chemistry style on him that make him pretty quick, then he's going to be very solid, along with the pretty decent defending and physical stats. He's really tall as well, with a really good weak foot, so he's an all-around good defender, but is he going to be one of those guys you want to splash the cash on? Probably not, because his passing isn't great either, and his dribbling is not that good. So, well, I guess it is for defender, for center back, so I don't know. If you're building a Serie A team and you get him, that's fine, but he's not somebody I would go and spend like 20K on. He's definitely good, but I wouldn't say he's anything particularly special. Let's go ahead and move on to the next round of players real fast. Go on to 80-61. Let me take a sip of Gatorade real fast as this loads. So up top we have Axel Witsel. Hopefully some of these will load a bit quicker. Axel Witsel with a 4-star. 4-star, that's actually pretty good. His pace is good, his shooting is okay, his passing is good, his dribbling is good, and his physical and defending are both solid too. So this is a very well-rounded center mid. This is a guy that could play center mid, he could play center defensive mid. He can do a lot of stuff, so a decent player there. Robertson, an 85 rated, so that's a pretty solid jump for him. 85 pace is pretty good, his passing is solid, his dribbling is good, his defending is good, and his physical is pretty good as well. So a decent player here. His 2-star weak foot might not be great, but for a fullback, it's not too much can be expected. And his skill moves a 3. Once again, not great, but not much to be expected. Rafael Varane is still an 85, which is just shocking. I don't understand. I guess Real Madrid didn't play very good last year, so it kind of makes sense. But his 83 pace is just phenomenal. His shooting is trash, but no worries there. His passing isn't great. His dribbling is poor, and his defending and physical are both really, really good. Well, not really, really good, but they're definitely solid. So this is a very good Varane card. It's kind of like Manolas's card, but I think a little bit better because his 83 pace is great, and I just think that his stats in general are a bit better than Manolas's. So, fair play to Varane for being just an excellent footballer. Frankie de Jong is an 85, which we already knew, but his 4-star skill moves is definitely good. His weak foot's not great, but nothing too bad. Because of his shooting, I think he can't really be anything other than a CDM. I would like to kind of see him in a midfield too. But his passing is definitely good enough to kind of make him a CM. So, I don't know. I guess his shooting's good enough to where he can do a few things in front of goal, and his passing is excellent enough to where he can definitely be dangerous moving forward. So I guess he could be a center mid, and his dribbling is definitely solid. So yeah, he has to be a decent center mid. I think he could definitely do a job as a CDM as well, but I think the center mid is going to be his position actually. Like I said, with the 4-star skill moves and the 3-star weak foot, he's just an overall pretty good player. James Rodriguez, I think they kind of did him dirty here because, of course, he went down in pace big time. I think he was, around like 70-something? Maybe it was like 65 or something like that, more or less, in FIFA 19. But now he has 55, which is just atrocious. His shooting is still really good. His passing is really good, as well as his dribbling. But his pace and his physical stats kind of make him a dubious player there among the cams, especially with that garbage weak foot. Skill moves are good, but, the weak foot is more important in my opinion. And this is just not a great card for James Rodriguez. I think he can do a job as long as he has the ball on his left foot and he's close to goal. But other than that, I don't think he's really going to be worth too much. Donnarumma is a solid 85 here. His diving and reflexes are excellent. His handling is good. His kicking is all right. His speed is, what it is, and his positioning is okay. So he's not a great player, but I think that as a keeper, he's going to do a lot because he's also very tall. He's got some good stops with his feet, so I think that he definitely could be a player that could surprise some people and could definitely be one of the better low tier, no, not low tier, but mid to high tier keepers in the game. He's one of those guys that is going to cost around 20K, I think, tops. Not early on. Early on it will be more expensive, but once the game kind of settles a little bit, I think it'll be like around 20K, and that's going to be a decent amount of coins spent on a keeper of this nature. And then of course, once you get towards like February, March, he's probably going to be around 8, 9K. So he's definitely a solid keeper there. We have Marcelo now, who took a step backwards as an 85. He's an 81 rated. 81 pace. He's got 74 shooting, which is still good for a fullback. 83 passing. And 89 dribbling and 79 physical. So he's slower, yes, but everything else remains pretty solid. I think he's definitely a usable player and one that will be very used in this game. I think it's still going to be a matter of either him or Alexandro or maybe Jordi Alba, of course. But I think it's going to be between those three players. I think that Marcelo will still probably be the fan favorite because he has those physical stats and he's still just a very, very good player playing for Real Madrid too. So he will get a lot of informs, I think, this season. I think the Real Madrid are going to come back a little bit. I don't know if they'll win the league. I don't think they'll win the Champions League, but I think that they definitely will come back. And, of course, having that 5-star weak foot, 5-star skill moves and 4-star weak foot, he's always going to have a lot of play time. And he's just a really good player. Parejo is completely useless in this game, in my opinion. 41 pace is just awful. His shooting and passing are good, and his dribbling is good, but realistically, man, like this guy, he's just not usable. 41 pace is not usable. He has that 4-star weak foot, which is good, but the 3-star skill moves even make him even worse. Just not really a usable player. Szczesny, I think he's not as good as Donnarumma in terms of making sure saves, but I think he will be more consistent because of his 86 positioning. I don't like Szczesny, to be honest with you guys. Not in the game or in real life. I think he's just not that great of a goalkeeper, but it is what it is. He has an 86, so respect to him there. His diving is good. His handling is pretty good. And his reflexes is excellent, as well as the positioning. So he's going to be one of those keepers that is going to be able to do a job, and he's just kind of a decent keeper. Nothing special, but nothing to not rely on either. Here we have Isco. His pace is just really bad. Not really, really bad, but it's just not great. For a cam, you need somebody around, I think, 80 pace at least. And to see him with 71 is kind of disappointing. His shooting is also not that great. His passing is good, and his dribbling is excellent, but this just isn't really a great Isco card, in my opinion. His 4-star skill moves make him decent, but his 3-star weak foot is just not that great. So, not really a solid card here for Isco. Ciro Immobile was a player that I really liked last year, but I don't know. I'm not seeing too much out of him here. 80 pace could be decent for the season. His 85 shooting is still good. 76 physical is good, but not great. And his 81 dribbling is solid. So he could be a player that can do a lot with his 4-star weak foot. I'm not really a skill guy, so I don't really care about the skill moves too much. But he could be a decent striker, but will he be excellent? I don't know about that, but still a fair shout. Philippe Coutinho, an 86 overall, 79 pace for a winger is not great, but that doesn't matter because I always prefer him as a cam anyway. So I would probably, if I did have him, which I wouldn't because I don't like him, but if I did have him, I would probably start him out as a winger and then in game move him as a cam. 79 pace for a cam is usable. It's not great, but it is usable. His shooting is good enough, his passing is good enough, and his dribbling is more than good enough. So he definitely would be a solid cam, especially with the skill moves and the weak foot. So he could definitely play there. Next up, we have Thomas Mueller. For some reason, it's not loading these anywhere near fast enough, so it's kind of annoying me. But anyway, Thomas Mueller, a player that I don't like in FIFA. I don't like him necessarily in real life either. But in FIFA, I don't like him at all. His 72 pace for a cam, like I said, just isn't really good enough. I guess chem styles do come into play here, but we're just looking at the base models. 72 pace isn't really good enough. 83 shooting, I think, is definitely good. Passing is okay. His dribbling is okay, and his physical. So he's an 86, but he's an 86 that I don't think is going to be all that useful. Umtiti took a step backwards here, in my opinion, because I think his pace was better last year. I'm not too sure about that, but I think it was. His offensive stats are garbage, which is fine. His dribbling is okay for a center back, and his defending and physical are actually pretty solid. He has a good weak foot, so that's positive, and he does have 2-star skill moves, which is nothing special, but still something to have. So yeah, a decent player in Umtiti. I think that if you do get him in a pack, then you can be pretty happy with that. Skriniar, wow, man, they took down his pace a lot. I think he was around 75, so 69 is not good. His shooting is trash. His passing is trash. His dribbling is an atrocity, but his defending and physical stats are definitely good. So, and his weak foot is 4 stars. So, because of the 4 stars and the defensive and physical stats, I think he's still going to be useful. If you boost his speed, kind of like Umtiti, then he's still going to be a pretty good player. So, but the 4-star, I think, weak foot kind of makes him a lot more usable than he would have been without it. Ivan Rakitic, this is a decent player here, but his 62 pace makes him kind of have to be I guess unless you give him a good chemistry style like Hunter or something like that gives him a huge 10-point boost for his pace, then I don't really see him being all that usable as a cam. As a CM, he's definitely going to be pretty usable. Like I said, as long as you give him the boost. But as a CDM, he can do an okay job. Not a good one, but he can do an okay job in the midfield too. His shooting is definitely good. His passing is excellent, and his dribbling is solid. So decent player there. Leonardo Bonucci is a guy that I don't like in real life, and I don't like him in FIFA as well. His pace is low, so I don't like that in defenders. His passing is pretty good. For a center back, I guess it's not great, but it's not bad either. His physical is okay, and his defending is okay. This is a player that I would honestly pass on big time. I would much rather have Skriniar and Manolas than Bonucci. Verratti is another player that I just don't think is really built for FIFA. His pace is garbage, his shooting is garbage, and that's something that is kind of unforgivable for a player who's playing as a CM. As a CDM, he's unusable because of his 66 physical. So I just think that he's kind of a player who, in real life, is pretty good, but in the game, he's just not built for it. His passing is excellent, his dribbling is solid, his defending is actually pretty good, but his physical lets him, kind of lets him down a little bit, and his pace is just awful. So the 4-star doesn't really help him much there. Moving on to the final 2 of this page, we have Bobby Firmino with 4-star, which is pretty damn good for a CF, which is more than likely going to be played as his cam anyway. So his pace is okay. It's not great, but it's okay. It is kind of usable, especially because you can boost it. His shooting is decent, his passing is decent, and his dribbling is good. So he's a pretty decent player with that 78 physical as well. So he can do a job. I won't use him because he's a scouser, but he can definitely do a job. Marquinhos, this is a decent player here. His 74 pace is good. His 73 passing is good. His 77 physical is okay. His 86 defending is really good, and his dribbling is good. So this is a defender where if you can kind of get past the fact that he's not that physically strong, but he's capable, then I think you're going to be pretty happy with him. Like, he's got the pace, he has the passing, so he can play as a CDM as well if you want to move him in-game. So he can do a lot of stuff, but he's just not one of those excellent players that you kind of think, man, I would really like to use him. But for me, because I'm thinking about doing a League One team, mostly based on French players, he could be a potentially decent one as I move forward. Let's go ahead and move on to the next page of players, 60 to 41, and we are still only a third of the way done. Not even a third of the way done, really. So as this loads, I'm going to drink some water. All right, so Alexandre Lacazette. Lacazette is an 86 overall, which is definitely more than merited. 82 pace is pretty good for a striker. 85 shooting is great, and his 86 dribbling is great as well. His passing is pretty good for a striker, and his physical is more than enough with those 4-star. So I'm happy with this Lacazette card. Like, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be very happy about this. And if I get him in a pack, you better believe I'm going to be happy about that. Because, like I said, I'm building a French team, I think, to start off with. And he would be excellent to slide in there. Angel Di Maria, he's a piece of shit in real life. He's a twat in the game, so I'm not going to be using him at all with that garbage 2-star weak foot. The only person I'll be using with a 2-star weak foot that's a winger is Ryan fucking Giggs. Everybody else can eat shit if they have 2-star weak foot and they're a winger. Di Maria in particular, his pace is, for a winger, it's just not that great. His shooting is not that great. His passing is good, and his dribbling is really good too. So he's usable. He is usable, but he's not going to be for me. Miralem Pjanic, 86 overall once again. His pace for a CM is not great, but it is boostable. As a CDM, much like kind of Verratti, I don't really think he's good enough for it. I think he is kind of a Verratti style player in the sense that he has to be in a midfield 3. But I just think that either one of them are particularly good for FIFA. Like, the weak foot's good, the skill moves are mediocre, but the passing and dribbling are good, and the defending once again isn't that bad, much like Verratti, but just not really usable for FIFA. Next up, we have Leroy Sané, who, unfortunately for him, got injured early on in the season. His 95 pace that is huge because in FIFA 20, there aren't a lot of guys with that kind of pace. So 95 pace is insane. His shooting is really good. His passing is good. And his dribbling is also really, really good. So he has a solid card here. His weak foot's not that great, but it's okay. It's good enough. And his skill moves at 4 stars are definitely good enough. So this right here is an early candidate to be one of the best meta players in this 86 range. Kimmich, I don't like his pace. I don't like his pace for a fullback. If you can boost it, then okay, that's all right. And his defending and physical are good enough, especially with that excellent excellent dribbling and passing stats. So he's a very, very good defender in that point of view. Moving forward, things will be very solid, but that pace kind of leaves me a little bit worried about what could happen if there's some space in behind the defense. But overall, he's definitely a solid player here with the 4-star weak foot and the 3-star skill moves. Keylor Navas, playing for PSG. He's going to get plenty of game time, so I think he's definitely a decent player here. His diving is excellent. His reflexes are excellent. His positioning is okay, and his handling is okay. His kicking is okay, too. So just a very well-rounded keeper here, one that could definitely do a lot of solid things here. Moving on to Jan Vertonghen as soon as it loads. Jan Vertonghen is an 87, 63 pace, 63 shooting, so the shooting is okay for a center back. The pace, not really. The passing is decent. The dribbling is okay. And the defending is really good, but the physical is not great. So he's a guy that could be okay, but I think I would honestly pass on having him as one of my main Premier League defenders. Lorenzo Insigne is now a CF, which is I think kind of fits him a bit better because the good thing about him is he has a great weak foot and he has really good curve shots. So I think this kind of fits him a bit better. His dribbling is excellent. His physicality is just shit, but his pace and his passing are excellent, and his shooting is pretty solid. So as a cam, he could definitely be a top player. He could definitely be a very, very useful player, much like Mertens was last year. Casemiro, this is a guy that's pretty decent. Like his pace is pretty shit. That needs a boost for sure. But his shooting is good enough for CDM. It's more than good enough for CDM, really. His passing is good. His dribbling is okay. And his defending and physical stats are just excellent. That 3-star weak foot's not bad, so he could definitely do a job. Moving on to Thiago Silva, who is very, very interesting for me, who wants to start off with the League One / French team. So, this could potentially be an upgrade for me moving forward. 62 pace, not that good, but it could be boosted, like I said. His shooting is not a problem for me because he's a center back. His passing is pretty good. His dribbling is pretty good as well, and his defending is solid. His physical kind of lets him down a little bit, but I think that he's still a decent player to where if you can give him, I think it was Sentinel, where you boost physical and defending, he's going to be more than good enough. Dries Mertens, this is a solid player right here. Like his pace is good. I think his acceleration is going to be pretty good, so that's going to be a little bit better than his pace shows. His shooting is good. His passing is good. His dribbling is good. His physical is not that great. So he's very much like a Lorenzo Insigne type player. So I think that whichever one you have as a cam, I think it's pretty much fine either way. I would probably go with Mertens, to be honest with you. I like him more as a player, but I could also see why you would go with Insigne. 4-star for both of them. Definitely just solid players. Laporte took a solid step forward. 64 pace, not great, but as you can see with all these center backs, that's pretty much par for the course this year. His shooting is not good, but his passing is. His dribbling is not good either, but his defending and physical stats are also very, very solid. So, 2-star skill moves and 3-star weak foot, mediocre, but usable. So, no shame there. Moving on to Thiago Alcantara. He is with a 5-star skill moves, which is definitely good, but only a 3-star weak foot. So, that's good if you're a skiller, but not good if you're a guy like me. His pace, his defending, and his physical stats make him pretty much difficult to use anywhere other than a cam. But his pace just makes him pretty shit. His passing, dribbling, and shooting are good enough for him to be a cam, but his pace and his physical just don't really suit him there. So I think this is kind of an unusable player unless you have a very, very good midfield 3. Bernardo Silva, this is a decent player here, but his pace needs to be higher. I don't like wingers under 87, 88 pace, to be completely honest with you guys. His shooting is pretty good. It's actually really good for a winger. His passing is good, and his dribbling is excellent. So a decent player here. His weak foot's not great, but you can deal with that. His skill moves is good if you're a skiller, but not really for me. So a player that I wouldn't particularly like to have, but he is decent. Alderweireld, I think that he's definitely a better version of Vertonghen in this game. I think his dribbling is worse than Vertonghen's, but I think his passing is better. His pace is a little bit higher. His shooting is more or less the same, and his defending is higher, and his physical is the same. So really, like 6'1", half a dozen the other. So nothing particular special for either one of those guys, but they're both definitely somewhat usable. Now this is an interesting one. Here we have Heung-min Son. Son is definitely a solid player, and I like to see him with a central role. His 88 pace is good. His 86 shooting is good. His passing is good enough. His dribbling is really, really solid. His 5-star weak foot is excellent, and his 4-star skill moves makes him very, very, very dangerous. So I like this card a lot, and this is one of my favorite cards I've seen so far, if not my favorite one so far. Fernandinho, this is a very, very decent card here. His pace is not that great, but like for center backs and CDMs, they seem to be pretty slow this year. His shooting is good enough, his passing is good enough, his dribbling is good enough, his defending is good, and his physical is good enough. So with the 4-star weak foot, he has all the tools to be a solid CDM here. Mats Hummels, his pace is just shit, so not a big fan of him here. His shooting is not good, but his passing is alright, his dribbling is okay. His defending is solid, but his physical stats are shit. So pace and physical make him not really worth getting, in my opinion. Moving on to Jordi Alba and Karim Benzema. Jordi Alba is a solid left back here with 90 pace, which definitely puts him at a pretty distinct advantage over Marcelo from that point of view. His passing is good and his dribbling is okay. Well, it's actually pretty good. His defending is not the best, but okay. And his physical is not that great either. So I think that, yes, is faster, but I think that Marcelo will still be favored because he has more physical stats. He has the 5-star skills and the 4-star weak foot. So I think that Marcelo is still the better player for FIFA. Karim Benzema is an 87, so he did take a step forward, maybe 2 steps forward actually. 76 pace is okay. I would like to see a little bit higher, but it's okay. His shooting is decent, his passing is decent, his dribbling is good, and his physical is decent. So it's a good player here with a 4-star. No complaints here about Benzema. That's a very decent card, and we're ready to move on to the 40 to 30. So we're starting to get closer to the really interesting players. Samir Handanovic once again 88, just overall good keeper, excellent diving, excellent reflexes, excellent positioning, good handling, not that great kicking, and not that great speed, but that's fine. Everything else is so good to where you can kind of forgive his kicking not being that great. Thibaut Courtois, he kind of deserved, I think, to take a step backwards in the rating, so that's fine. His diving is good, his reflexes are really good, his handling is good, and his positioning are good as well. So, and his kicking is better than Handanovic, but I think if I have to choose between the two, honestly, I would rather go with Handanovic, I think. Paulo Dybala, an 88 with 83 pace, so pretty good. 82 shooting is pretty good. Passing is pretty good. And his dribbling is excellent. So I would like to see him have a higher weak foot, but he doesn't have that great of a weak foot in real life, so it makes sense. His skill moves with 4 stars is definitely solid. Yeah, it's a solid player right there. I think these 3 are all solid players. Diego Godin. This is interesting because this is a solid addition to City as defensive options. 60 pace, it's not excellent, that's for damn sure. He definitely desperately needs a boost, but it could be acceptable in this game. 48 shooting is not good. His passing is shit, but that's fine because of how good his defensive and physical stats are. So with a decent weak foot as well, he's a solid player. Hugo Lloris is actually one of the best goalkeepers once again this year, so I'm happy to see about that because I do like Lloris as a goalkeeper. 89 diving, 91 reflexes, 82 handling, and 84 positioning. He's just a very, very good keeper. His kicking is still shit, but that's kind of to be expected. Not many keepers are great with their feet, so I wouldn't want to see too many of them being just beasts. David Silva is an 88. Thankfully this year he's not bald because something about him being bald that just really irritated the shit out of me. I don't know what it was. Like before he had curly hair, and that frustrated me, but now him being bald, that kind of frustrated me oddly even more. I don't know. It's just kind of a weird thing. I guess everybody can have the hair they want. I have shit hair too, but I don't know. It just kind of bothered me for some reason. His 65 pace is definitely not good. As a cam, I think it's unplayable. 74 shooting is good. His passing is excellent. His dribbling is good, but with that pace, he's just unusable. His weak foot shit as well, and his skill moves are good, but I don't know. He's just unusable in my opinion for this game. Ederson, he's a good goalkeeper for sure. His kicking is phenomenal. His handling is good. His diving is good. His reflexes are excellent, and his positioning is excellent as well. So, by far the best goalkeeper we've seen so far. Marco Reus, 85 pace for a cam, that's perfectly fine. His shooting is great. His passing is great. His dribbling is great. His physical is not that excellent, but look at his 4-star. So, this is an excellent card right here. I'm really happy to see that Marco Reus has this excellent card. Edinson Cavani, 75 pace is definitely good enough for a striker with his characteristics. 86 shooting is really good. 72 passing, not loving that, but the 79 dribbling is good, as well as the 83 physical and the 4-star weak foot. So I like this Cavani card. It's not one that I would necessarily go crazy for, but it's a very usable one. And next up we have Paul Pogba, 88. He maintained his rating, or did he actually go up one? I think he may have gone up one, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it was actually an 88, so makes sense. 74 pace, that's good enough for CM. Definitely like to boost a little bit. His 81 shooting is really good for a CM. I like him as a CD, as a cam as well. Not really a CDM, but as a cam. I think he has the stats to do that. Defending, he's just not good enough to be a CDM. I think a lot of people are going to play him there, but I don't like him there. His pace is good enough to be a cam or a CM as long as you boost it. His shooting is great for that position. His passing is good. His dribbling is really good, and his physical is just really solid too. 4-star weak foot with a 5-star skill moves. Just an excellent card here for Paul Pogba. Moving on to the 30 to 21s, we have Christian Eriksen, and I'm happy to see this card here, as long as it loads. I'm happy to see Christian Eriksen with a card like this. Sorry about that, guys. 73 pace, not bad. It definitely needs a boost if he's going to be playing as a cam. 81 shooting is good. His passing is excellent. His dribbling is good. 5-star weak foot, 4-star skill moves. This is a very solid card right here, guys. Toni Kroos, 88. It's kind of sad to see them butcher. What the fuck? Anyway, it's kind of hard. It's kind of sad to see somebody butcher his pace like this. With 45 pace, it's pretty sad to see. But his 80 shooting is definitely solid. I think he can definitely play as a CM alongside a couple of quicker midfielders. 45 pace, just not that great, but his shooting is excellent for that position. His passing is phenomenal. His dribbling is surprisingly low, to be honest with you, and his defending and physical stats aren't that great. So, like I said, he kind of needs to play in a midfield three that are going to have better players in terms of speed and containment, but I think that he definitely is a solid player here. 5-star weak foot, as always, is very solid, and okay 3-star skill moves. Sadio Mane here. He's another excellent player, excellent player to have. 94 pace makes him just demonic in nature. 83 shooting is good. His 77 passing kind of leaves a little bit to be desired because I want to see what his crossing stats are. His 88 dribbling is good. His physical, not great. And his defending, it doesn't really matter, does it? But this is a solid card for Mane. Manuel Neuer, as always, a bit overrated, I think. He hasn't had an excellent season in forever, but I guess it is what it is. 87 diving, 87 handling, 91 kicking, and 87 reflexes, and 85 positioning. He's an excellent, well-rounded goalkeeper, and with a 4-star weak foot, you can't really go wrong with him. I think that as long as the game does goalkeepers the right way, then he's going to be very solid. Gerard Piqué, once again, 88. He's just consistently very, very solid. 56 pace, that's definitely too low. You need to boost that desperately if you get him. His 61 shooting is okay, which is not really necessary for a center back, but it's okay at 61. His passing is good enough. His dribbling is not great, but okay. His defending and physical are both solid, so no complaints there from a PK point of view. Jesus, I'm just gonna say Aubameyang. I want to say Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. For some reason, I can't say it, but it is what it is. 94 pace, 85 shooting, just phenomenal stats there. 80 dribbling could be better, but in the 75 passing could be better. But with 94 and 85, you have to love that. You have to love that. With the 4-star skill moves and the 4-star weak foot, this is an excellent card. And one that's going to do a lot of damage, especially early on. Anybody who has him is going to be very, very, very advantaged. Sterling, this is a solid card right here too. 93 pace, 79 shooting, 78 passing, 89 dribbling, with the 4-star skill moves and 3-star weak foot. I have seen some people complaining about his shooting being too low, but if you see the amount of shots this guy squanders, then I don't think it's too surprising. Like, all he scores really are tap-ins, so nothing too surprising there. 89 David De Gea, it is a deserved downgrade because he hasn't had a good couple of seasons, but still is going to be a very solid keeper in the game. His diving is excellent, his reflexes are phenomenal, his positioning is good, his handling is good, and his kicking is good too. So this is going to be definitely a solid goalkeeper. I'm a big fan of him. I love him. I hope he stays at United for the rest of his career, and I hope he does find himself back with some excellent form. He has the stats, and he has in real life the capability of doing so. So it's just a matter of getting his heads back screwed on the right way and just kind of getting on with it. Luis Suarez, they downgraded his pace here. He's at 73 pace, which isn't that good for a striker, to be honest, with his characteristics, especially because he's not. Yes, he has a high physical, but he's not really a header god. So I would like to see him have higher pace, but his shooting is phenomenal. His passing is good. His dribbling is really good, and his physical is really good. So a guy with a 4-star weak foot and 3-star skill moves, I would be more than happy to have Suarez if he wasn't a cunt. Next up is Sergio Busquets, who is an 89 overall, the first 89 I've seen. No, sorry. De Gea and Suarez were 89s as well. But his 42 pace makes him unusable, in my opinion. His passing is really good for that position, of course. His dribbling is good for that position, and his defending and physical stats are both good. His weak foot's 3 stars, so not bad, and his skill move's 3 stars, but that 42 pace just makes him basically completely unusable. So moving on to the top 20 to 11, we have Antoine Griezmann, who's an 89, who I think was an 89 last year as well. 81 pace, it's not the best, but it's definitely solid considering this game. I think that I would like to play him as a cam, to be honest with you. He has the pace, the shooting, and the passing to do it, as well as the dribbling, and his physical is good enough to kind of be right there behind the striker, but he can also make some solid runs in behind the defense, and I like his long shooting as well. I like his finesse shots, so I just like that a lot, so I think he'd be an excellent cam. Alisson is a solid goalkeeper. I don't think he's going to be as good as Neuer or David De Gea in the game, but his diving is good, his reflexes are really good, his positioning is excellent, his handling is good, and his kicking is good, so he's just an excellent goalkeeper in the game. N'Golo Kante, I don't know what the fuck's going on here with his face, but it is alright, I see you. 78 pace is just perfectly fine for a CDM. His shooting is not good, but who cares, because it's CDM. His passing is pretty solid. His 81 dribbling is really solid. His 87 defending and 83 physical. I think they kind of did him dirty there, because yes, he's short, but he's just very, very physically strong. So I think he probably should have been like an 85 physical, but very, very solid card here, and one that I definitely hope to have sometime. 3-star weak foot, not bad. His steal moves, who cares? It's Kante, so not bad at all. Koulibaly, this is a good card right here. 71 pace is always excellent for a center back. The defending and physical stats on this man are monstrous, and they more than make up for his trash shooting and trash passing. His dribbling is not good either, so you do have to kind of take that into consideration. Like, you need this guy to really perform with his physicality and kind of make up for that defending. But if he is able to do that, he's just going to be one of the best center backs in the game by far. Harry Kane, this is a very, very solid card here. His pace leaves a little bit to be desired, but if you can kind of boost that a little bit, which of course you can with Hunter, then that's going to be excellent right there. His 91 shooting is just insane. His passing is not that good, but it could be boosted. So you could really give him like a catalyst. That's probably my best thing to give him there as catalyst to build up his pace and shooting. His pace and passing. His 81 dribbling is good, and his 83 physical is actually solid too. Lewandowski. Lewandowski is a card that I always like to use. I don't like his pace insanely, but I think that much like with Kane, if you give him a catalyst, like I did with his Team of the Year card. No, what was it? I got his Team of the... No, I got one of his informs. I got one of his informs with like a 94, so... And on that card, I give him catalyst, and that was an excellent card right there. I think that would give him like 86, 87 pace, more or less, with like 84 passing, so that would make him a solid player with his dribbling and physical. So he's just a very, very good card as always. Next up, we have Giorgio Chiellini, who unfortunately got hurt. I'm a big fan of Chiellini in real life. His pace is alright for a center back. It's nothing special, but it's alright. His shooting's not good, but who cares? Neither is his passing. But his defending and physical stats are both very solid. So if you can boost up his pace and his passing, then that's just going to be very good for him. His 3-star weak foot's actually pretty good too, which is kind of surprising. Sergio Aguero. This is a player that in real life, I hate him because of what he's done for City. But I love the fucking player he is. He's just an insane player to watch, and his 80 pace is more than enough for the type of player he is. His 90 shooting is phenomenal. His passing is a little bit low ball, so I think you need to give him catalyst as well, much like Lewandowski and Kane. His physical is not good, but he's not that type of player, and his dribbling is really solid with that 4-4. That's just excellent card right here. Sergio Ramos, rightfully downgraded. 72 pace is still more than enough. His passing is still really good for a center back, as well as his dribbling, and of course his defending and physical stats are excellent. And his 3-star are more than enough. So good card right there for Sergio Ramos as always. And now we have the absolute beast that is Kylian Mbappe. This is a card right here that's going to give a lot of people a lot of problems. 96 pace is phenomenal. 84 shooting is really, really good. His passing is not excellent, but it's still good enough. And his 90 dribbling is phenomenal alongside very respectable 75 physical. His 5-star skill moves and 4-star weak foot make him an absolute nightmare to defend against. And that's just one hell of a card and one that I most certainly want to use, especially because he's a striker this season. So that's very, very scary. Moving on to the top 10 players, we have Ter Stegen, who is ugly as shit in this picture, but still repping Barcelona to the best of his abilities with that 88 diving, 90 reflexes, 85 handling, 88 kicking, and 88 positioning. Just a very, very good keeper card right here with a 4-star weak foot, so he's just an even better version of Neuer, so one that I would most certainly like to use. Moving on to Luka Modric, 4-star, 4-star, which is, of course, to be expected with a player of his ability. His 74 pace is definitely usable. His 76 shooting, I think, is a little bit low-balling, but it's decent. His passing is good, of course, excellent. His dribbling is excellent. And he's another one of those players that could be very solid in a midfield three. I think that him and Kroos kind of fit each other perfectly, but they need somebody like Casemiro. So that Real Madrid midfield, if you want to use it in this game, it's going to be solid no matter what. Moving on to Momo Salah. You have 93 pace, which is just excellent for this game. 86 shooting is excellent. His finesse shots with the left foot is going to be lethal. 81 passing is good. His 89 dribbling is really good. And, of course, his physical is actually not bad either. And one thing to take into consideration here is his weak foot's 3 stars. I think last year it was 2. I could be wrong about that, but 3 stars is not bad for a guy of his capabilities. And 4-star skill moves is more than enough. So that's a solid Salah card right there. Moving on to Virgil van Dijk, and in my opinion, he's the best defender in the world right now, so he definitely deserves this 90 overall. The pace is excellent for a center back. The passing is good. The dribbling is really good. The defending is excellent, and the physical is just excellent as well. The weak foot's solid. So just a perfect center back card right there. With his physical stats, with his stature, and his reading of the game, I think his work rate is going to be perfect as well. So this is just pretty much the perfect center back card for anybody to use. Here we have Jan Oblak, 87 diving, 92 handling, 89 reflexes, and 90 positioning. 78 kicking is not bad either. So this is an excellent keeper right here. Excellent keeper, and one that I eventually want to get my hands on. So 3-star weak foot as well. Just a solid player right here. So look out for Oblak to be easily the best keeper in the game. Not just in terms of stats, but also in terms of what he actually does on the pitch. Kevin De Bruyne, a player that I really, really like in real life, even though he plays for a team I dislike with a passion. 76 pace, not great, but definitely usable, especially if you boost it. His 86 shooting is phenomenal. 92 passing is phenomenal. His 87 dribbling is great, and his 78 physical is great as well. So alongside that 4-star skill moves and 5-star weak foot, he's pretty much the perfect cam and one that I really, really, really want to use. Moving on to the top 4, we have Eden Hazard at a 91 overall, which is more than deserved, with 91 pace, 83 shooting, 86 passing, 94 dribbling, and that 66 physical is not great, but that's what you expect from Eden Hazard, because he's more of get in behind and just light you the fuck up. So 4-star, excellent card here for Hazard, and definitely somebody's going to get a lot of informs. Neymar, don't like him in real life, don't really particularly like him in FIFA as well, which is, I know, shocking because of how overpowered he is. 5-star, excellent. 91 pace, excellent. Shooting, excellent. Passing, excellent. Dribbling, insane. His physical is not good, but that's just kind of what you expect from Neymar because he's a soft-ass little bitch. But, yeah, excellent card right here. Just phenomenal card. Moving on to Viva fucking Ronaldo, the best player in the world in my opinion. Has been for a long time. 90 pace, definitely really, really solid. 93 shooting, which is insane. 82 passing, which is, I think, low balling a little bit, but, good enough. 89 dribbling, and I think that this 78 physical is a travesty. He should be like an 82, but it is what it is. 4-star weak foot and 5-star skill moves. Phenomenal player. Just, yes, they downgraded him by 1, but it doesn't matter. He's still the best player in the game by far. Because Messi, he has the highest rated card in the game, but let's not get it twisted. Cristiano Ronaldo is always going to be the best player in the game because of what he can do physically as well. So, 87 pace, so he is slower than Ronaldo. He has lower shooting stats than Ronaldo. He has much higher passing stats, so it is something to take into consideration. 96 dribbling and only 66 physical. But one thing to take into consideration here, which I do not like at all, is he's a right winger. I don't like him as a right winger. I like him as a striker. Or as a cam, one or the other. So, not a fan of this Messi card. Remember, I'm really never a fan of the Messi cards 4-star, 4-star. It's great. It's great statistically, and I'm sure for this game in particular, it's great. But I don't know if I like him as a winger. I'd have to try him out to see. I didn't like him as a winger in FIFA 19, so we would have to see kind of how things pan out there. But just an excellent card overall. And that's it, guys. That's my top. That's the top 100 players in FIFA 20. How long have we been rolling? We've been rolling for, oh my goodness, almost an hour. Whew. So that's a long one, guys. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you stuck around for this entire thing. If you did, let me know in the comment section by saying that David De Gea is a cute man. Even though I am straight as fuck, he is a cute, adorable man. And I would like to suck his schlong just for story reasons. And of course, like I just said, I'm straight as shit, and yet I said it. So if you did hear me say that, then let me know in the comment section down below, because I will know that you're a true fan and you have a lot of heart. So, guys, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. My next video will most certainly have my new 4K camera being used. So shout out to my girlfriend for giving it to me, as well as some good lighting and stuff like that. So a lot of good things are coming to this channel. Hopefully you enjoyed this long video, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching.